Every Who down in Who Newville liked the holidays a ton, but where to get great prices on gifts, they had no idea. None. They searched and they searched for great gifts under $25. Gifts for spouses and friends and even their toddlers. When suddenly one Who shouted, Walmart has what you want, knowing they have Lego, Tree Hut, and low prices to flaunt. So they enjoy the holiday season as Who's often do, cheering and shouting, Walmart has incredible gifts. Who knew? Find gifts they'll love under $25 at Walmart.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, I'm here to pick up my son Milo.
There's no Milo here.
Who picked up my son from school?
Streaming only on Peacock.
I'm gonna need the name of everyone that could have a connection.
You don't understand. It was just the 5 of us.
So this was all planned.
What are you gonna do?
I will do whatever it takes to get my son back.
I honestly didn't see this coming. These nice people killing each other.
All Her Fault. A new series streaming now only on Peacock.
Breaking news are happening now.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Reality Flash. My name is Mike Bloom, and I'm here to bring you the flashiest breaking news in the wild world of reality TV. Today, Netflix announces a new all-star reality series that I would say is ta-dum for. But first, you know, of course, I would never be one to fish for likes, but I am always fishing for subs and tips. So be sure to subscribe to this very podcast at therealityflash.com. And while you're there, leaving a rating and review would be always appreciated, especially as we are finishing out Q1 in a manner of speaking of the Reality Flash, to use some Netflix parlance. And of course, if you spot any reality TV news that you want me to cover from anywhere in the unscripted genre, no spam, no solicitations, just tips at therealityflash.com. It seems today that all you see are clones of the traitors. Since the Peacock series has become a massive success, basically the reality TV breakout hit of the past couple years, networks to Kingdom Come have been looking to cash in on what I personally refer to as the reality TV Smash Brothers genre. That is this idea of taking players from all different types of unscripted environments, from competition to dating to documentary, and throwing them together to see who ends up reigning supreme. And over the last little while, we've seen everything from the likes of House of Villains to The GOAT to even Got to Get Out, which is the new Hulu series that I talked about on the last episode of the Reality Flash. And now we've got one more in the chamber for you, as Netflix has announced a brand new show in their reality TV lineup, Battle Camp, which is premiering in its entirety on April 23rd. But I should note, however, that this is actually not Netflix's first go at an all-star reality series. Of course, I am referring to Perfect Match. For the uninitiated, it aired 2 seasons so far, at least in 2023 and 2024, and even though Netflix is kind of seedy sometimes about what's renewed and what's not, especially with their reality shows, it is most likely going to be returning for a 3rd season at some point. But for those who don't know, Perfect Match is basically the Netflix version of Your Bachelor in Paradise, where they take single and ready to mingle alumni from across the Netflix spectrum, everyone who's been on a reality show on Netflix, and they match themselves into couples. Those couples then compete in compatibility challenges, and then the winning couple gets to determine, like, of the 2 people who then enter as new guests to see, like, okay, will they go date other people that are on the show? Will they go on a date with each other? And then sort of like, again, a Bachelor in Paradise or a Love Island, they'll couple up, and anyone without a match must leave. And yes, we are talking about a completely other show today, but I go in depth with Perfect Match because this won't be the last time I mention both the show and in-season events that might play over into Battle Camp. So, despite there obviously being a past precedent for an all-star reality series here on this streamer, Battle Camp is focused more so on competition than romance. Though, let's call it out, these are young, dare I say, horny individuals. So I would not be surprised that even in the midst of the heat of the competition, we have a very different type of in-heat element going on. I would bet you dollars to donuts that we're going to hear either seeing on screen or through hearsay and exit interviews that there's going to be like at least 3 hookups that happen over the course of this series, especially given like the setting of Battle Camp, this real summer camp vibe and setting. Let's get into Battle Camp, shall we? Because the cast and concept has released only a couple days ago from the time that I am recording this. So we know a few details as to what to expect. There is a trailer that we'll be releasing, I believe, next week on the 7th that might highlight a bit more as to what we're getting ourselves into. But here's what we know so far about Battle Camp. And let me read right here off the page at Tudum, where they, this is like Netflix's, pseudo publication where they make a lot of announcements about their series. This is what they had to say about Battle Camp. 18 of the greatest Netflix reality universe stars will face off against each other in Battle Camp, a new series launching on April 23rd. To take home the title of the ultimate Netflix reality competitor, plus a cash prize of $250,000, they'll have to endure high-octane challenges, grueling punishments, and a giant spinning wheel of misfortune that determines who stays in camp and who must pack their bags and head home. Overseeing the reality crossover chaos is host Taylor Lewan, who will at least try to keep things civil between bunkmates. So, much like the campers themselves, a lot to unpack here. Let's start with a very choice term that I kind of need to chew on for a little bit here, as I heard about this a bit through the grapevine. Netflix is officially trying to make Netflix reality universe a thing. MCU out, NRU in. Very intriguing, to say the least. Choices. Definitely choices. Listen, I wouldn't necessarily say that Netflix is hopping on the modern day trends. Maybe they're 5 years behind or so and thought, well, people love Avengers Endgame. Surely people will love Avengers Doomsday. People are just frothing at the mouth over cinematic universes at the moment. Let's do our own version of the Avengers here. Let's bring together these 18 people, and we'll see, how much is predicated upon if you have to watch their previous seasons, much like you don't know when you watch Infinity War or Endgame if you have to watch the previous Marvel movies, but we'll bring them all together for one big skirmish. I don't know if that makes Taylor Lewan Thanos or not. I'm sure he certainly is comparable to his size, but yeah, I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm just speaking from a very nerd-based perspective. I feel like universes are out right now. I feel like, isn't the commonality with the MCU that people feel like I have to watch too much stuff to be aware as to like the third string cameo that takes place on an episode of Daredevil Reborn? There's too much homework involved in order to fully enjoy a piece. So I'm not sure if they use that term with the connotation in mind, or if they're trying to cash in on a trend that, again, much like the Traders formula, a lot of other pieces of cinema try to do. I mean, Lord only remembers when they tried the Dark Universe stuff earlier with like the Dracula movie and the Mummy stuff with Tom Cruise. That ended up falling quite flat. But I'm very intrigued to see how much longer they go with NRU. Because are you going to be intrigued by what this concept is? I know I certainly am. So what we know from the pictures of the cast, which I'll get into in the second half of this podcast, is that these 18 players are going to be divided into 3 teams of 6. Stop me if you've heard this before. And who knows, maybe when they talk about grueling punishments, one of them will, like, as a consequence for losing, Taylor Lewan takes away not necessarily their flint, but like their sleeping bags, and the ultimate version of sorry for you. But considering that they are at a camp, I'm intrigued to see what high octane challenges means. I don't know if this is something like out of the challenge where they're doing these big extreme stunts and hanging off of ledges and, careening off of semi-trucks, or if it's going to be more so like buddy game style, like, jump off the blob into the lake and swim a mile. I imagine it's going to be a bit more of the latter. Punishments intrigues me too. I don't know if there's going to be like a social strategy element where you get to allocate punishments to other campers or other teams, or if you just incur punishments for coming in last place. But the thing that most tickles my fancy is this Wheel of Misfortune. So I guess maybe the central visual, the totem of Battle Camp, is this giant spinning wheel that determines who stays in camp and who must pack their bags and head home. Really? They're going to let this come down to like a veritable game of Wheel of Fortune, where instead of buying a vowel, you buy your one-way ticket home? I'm not entirely sure. Now, maybe this is a thing where like all the members of the losing team are put on the wheel and then a spin's going to determine who goes. Maybe it's something like a lottery system like we ended up seeing in the Challenge USA, where it's like, okay, everyone's names are on it, but like certain people have more slots on the wheel than others, so it gives them a greater chance of being picked to go. Wheel of Misfortune implies to me that whoever is picked on the wheel is eliminated, and that just feels odd. Look, it's been even a matter of discourse lately when it comes to talking about the new era of Survivor, like how much luck is supposed to incorporate into a reality competition show when it's at its healthiest. Hell, we just got off of Dondi, where one person walked away with nearly $6 million, perhaps as a result of luck. So while perhaps they're sort of saying the quiet part out loud by putting the elimination in the hands of a giant spoked wheel, like it's some sort of, school charity raffle to figure out who ends up winning tickets to the pep rally at that school's homecoming game, it feels odd to eliminate people in a $250,000 contest. Now, maybe there will be, as I mentioned before, other steps to kind of get to this wheel spin, and who knows, maybe in honor of a fellow podcast on this network, we'll get many constitutional rules and amendments involved to make this wheel more complicated than ever. We quite literally do not need to reinvent the wheel here, but I'm very intrigued to see how essentially this show aims to combine the physical, the strategic, and apparently the fateful into one whole package. We also don't know, will a team take home the win? Will an individual take home the win? It seems like from this press release, they're saying that whoever's going to win the title of the ultimate Netflix reality competitor. So it makes me feel like one person's going to win. And with 18 contestants and probably only 10 to 12 episodes, I don't know what the rate of elimination is going to be. Again, a lot of big question marks here, including for the host as well. This feels like one of the first, Netflix reality shows to not be hosted by the Lachey's. This is hosted by Taylor Lewan. And Taylor is a former tackle for the Tennessee Titans. I'm sure Sam from Survivor 47 was just jumping up and down upon getting this news, because Taylor is a recently retired Titan. He had a really good career with them. He went to 3 Pro Bowls from 2016 to 2019. And it seems like he's fairly comfortable in front of the camera, as he is currently the host of the Barstool Sports podcast, Bussin' with the Boys, with fellow linebacker Will Compton. Unfortunately for Turner, I think his podcast name with his boy Monty was taken here. Hey all, Mike Bloom from the editing room. Just wanted to chime in here after recording because I actually did reach out to the man himself, Sam Phelan, Titans beat reporter, to ask his opinions on Taylor Lewan as a Netflix host, and my prediction ended up being correct. Sam is jazzed to see Taylor being on Battle Camp. This is a bit of what he had to tell me. He said that Taylor is larger than life, personality-wise, which is fitting for a guy that's 6'7" and 300 plus pounds, loved being in front of a camera, talked a big game, talked a lot of crap, no filter, very confrontational, but always well-spirited. It seems like he was basically the leader of the offensive line of the Titans for a decade and was really well-loved by everybody on the team. If maybe sometimes he popped off with a soundbite or two. So as random as this pick might be on the surface, for those of us who know, we know it's the right one. So put me in the camp of being excited to see Taylor Lewan on Battle Camp as a host among all of these personalities, especially when he has a big one himself. All right, back to Podcast Mike. I'm intrigued by the choice because I don't believe Taylor Lewan has been involved in any Netflix stuff at this point, so I'm not sure how he got recruited to this, but hey, if you're looking for somebody to try to serve as it's referring to, like, sort of the calm within the storm of all these different personalities, you probably want this, like, massive dude to serve as quite literally a barrier if people come to fisticuffs, you know? So that is the what of Netflix's Battle Camp, and I'll be back after this break to talk through the cast of the show. And luckily, unlike another certain universe, it won't take 5.5 hours to do. So please, pull up a chair, and I'll be back in a flash.
Meet the computer you can talk to. With Copilot on Windows, working, creating, and collaborating is as easy as talking. Got writer's block? Share your screen with Copilot Vision to help spark inspiration, and use Copilot Voice to have a conversation and brainstorm ideas. Or maybe you need some tech help. With Copilot Vision, Copilot sees what you see. Let Copilot talk you through step-by-step guidance so you can master new apps, games, and skills faster. Try now at windows.com/Copilot.
Purina believes no one should have to make the impossible choice between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Through the Purple Leash Project, Purina is helping create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit purina.com/purple to learn more.
Hello, I'm Diane Morgan. If you know who I am, you know who I am. If you don't, who cares? I'm here to explain Italian Time, a holiday phenomenon where Italians throw away their clocks and gather for eternity with San Pellegrino. I've been at this party so long that I've eaten 5 courses, hugged someone's grandma twice, and been offered a job in the family restaurant. So this holiday season, make sure to bring enough San Pellegrino to last you through the meal, the after meal, and the entire goodbye ritual. San Pellegrino, holiday on Italian Time.
So we're still trying to figure out exactly what the concept of Battle Camp is at this moment, but we have a much more solid idea of at least who's going to be involved in this, who's going to be the people whose hands will be on this wheel of misfortune. And we have a cast of, again, 18 Netflix reality celebs ready to get their hands dirty here at Battle Camp. So figured I'll do what I usually do here on the Reality Flash as of late, go through them one by one, let you know what you need to know about them, where they're from, and what they are known for. So we're going to go in order here by first name. And let's start with Avery, perhaps one of the biggest gamers of this cast, quite literally. So Avery is a video game streamer in her day-to-day life, but she is most well known for her role on... Okay, so I'm going to use The Mole Season 1. It is The Mole. It's the first season on Netflix. I think it's technically like the 6th American version overall, but I'm just going to say The Mole Season 1. I'm going to like Survivor AU this, with no offense to the previous 5 seasons of The Mole, which you should check out, by the way. They are so much fun. But Avery was a big part of The Mole's debut season on Netflix a few years ago. She was somebody that was really trying to work the strategic aspect of The Mole. I think she's most well known for her kind of perpetuating this idea of mole-ish behavior, where she was purposely tanking her performance in some of these challenges, unfortunately prohibiting money from entering the pot, but also drawing a lot of attention to herself as a possible saboteur. And so therefore it would cause people to guess her as the mole on the quiz, tanking their odds on moving forward, because of course she was not the mole. Unfortunately, while her strategy got her all the way to the Final Four, she was cut right before the end there. And all that being said, Avery, and these are, I'm pulling some clips as well from, like, again, this To-Dumb article. They wrote up, like, little intros with some choice quotes from some of the players. And this says, Avery also recognizes that her confidence could cross over into delusion. So let's see if she can convince herself that she is a candidate to take home the $250K in Battle Camp. Next up is Bree. She is from Too Hot to Handle season 6. Now, admittedly, Too Hot to Handle is not my area of expertise. I have kept my hands off this show where people admittedly can't keep their hands off of each other, but I enlisted the best. Of course, our Hot Dummies on Island correspondent, Kirsten McGinnis, is well studied in the world of Too Hot to Handle. So I reached out to her with a list of some of these THTH alums that are on Battle Camp for some much needed context. So this is what Kirsten said to me about Bree. She says, Season 6 of Too Hot to Handle was the first season where everyone cast knew they were on Too Hot to Handle and didn't get fooled that they were on another show. That was a concept of the first 5 seasons, that essentially these people would get tricked into going on to a reality show thinking it was something else entirely, only to find out it's Too Hot to Handle, which for those that don't know, the concept is like, do you have to hang out in this villa, a bunch of young 20-somethings in the prime of their libido, and the more they got romantically involved with each other, the more money got taken out of the communal pot that the winner would get taken away. And Bree was one of those winners. She won Too Hot to Handle season 6. Kirsten said, Bree definitely came in wanting to break the rules, and she was part of the winning couple at the end who won. She is no longer with the man she won with, but it seems like it's messy on again, off again. And hopefully she is on when it comes to her drive to take home yet another win here in the Netflix reality universe. Let's talk about another Too Hot to Handle alum in Chase. Chase is on the case here. He is from Too Hot to Handle season 2 and Perfect Match season 1. A bit of a callback there. So Chase initially appeared on Too Hot to Handle, where he was a finalist. I believe that Chase is a former football player and is also a boxer now. So again, I'm not sure how physical some of these challenges, these high octane challenges are going to be, but Chase might be a star there. Kirsten says that he was a little bit of wallpaper on Too Hot to Handle, but he was also on Perfect Match, obviously, where he has a bit of a history with another person on this season. He had been courting Georgia and confessed his feelings for her, only for her to choose someone else at the coupling ceremony, leave him out, and eliminate him. So that's another thing about these shared universe all-star shows, is that some people come in with previous beef, and we'll see how well done that beef is. Let's talk about Gabby. So Gabby is from Cheer. Remember Cheer? Well, it's back in Battle Camp form. Of course, Cheer was a docuseries that was produced by Netflix, I want to say in like 2020, that was all about, a cheerleading squad at Navarro College. Gabby was one of the members of the Navarro Bulldogs. She's a 2-time world cheerleading champion. I believe Netflix built her as a cheerlebrity. Feels like we're now just going back to like bringing on parlance of, I really hope Gabby does say this is not a cheerocracy when she refers to the wheel, but intrigued to see how she is going to fit in amongst all of these newer Netflix celebs. Let's talk about Georgia. Georgia, we actually just mentioned her before, but a bit of her context from her Netflix reality side. So she was on Too Hot to Handle season 1 and Perfect Match season 1. So Georgia is Australian, or so I guess she was on season 3, because Kirsten says that she was the big hottie on season 3 that everyone was interested in. She finished in 3rd place on Too Hot to Handle, and then actually won season 1 of Perfect Match alongside Dom from Avery's season of The Mole. As I mentioned before, there was this moment where Chase was pursuing Georgia, and she chose to leave him out on an island, metaphorically speaking, in favor of pursuing some other guys in the competition. Georgia is quoted as saying, "I bring a good sense of humor and adventure because I'm Australian." I mean, listen, I've had the pleasure of watching a lot of Australians as of late. One of my best friends is an Australian, so happy to have the sense of humor and adventure coupled with that country. And intrigued to see, much like Brie, if Georgia is able to make it. I guess for her, it would be 2 for 3 in terms of these Netflix reality series. Let's talk about Geo. So Geo is from Selling the OC. You probably heard of Selling Sunset. This is very similar, obviously taking part in a different version of California. Selling the OC sounds like the name of that Alan Sepinwall tell-all book that was released last year. But Selling the OC is a show that takes part in the lives of, I believe it's a real estate agency. Geo is one of those agents. He describes himself as a bit of a shark when it comes to the business. I'll be intrigued to see how that carries over, of course, into the game. Will he be trying to make deals, undercut other deals in favor of like his own discounts, trying to say like, yeah, we could forego, the deposit in honor of us making this 2-week deal. Also, Gio apparently jokes that he fully expects to be the resident senior among his fellow campers. I believe Gio is 35 years old. My bones are turning to Nesquik, basically, as I am saying that this man could possibly be the oldest person on this season. Come through, Lexi Love. Let's talk about Irina. So Irina, I believe it's one of our sole representative from Love is Blind, which is wild considering how big Love is Blind, how big Love is Blind is, I should say, in both the size, the number of people that are on every season, as well as how big it is for Netflix in general. But if there is one representative from Love is Blind here on Battle Camp, Irina's a good one, because here's the thing. I did a pretty deep dive into everything that's going on with Irina. I'm not sure how much of this is going to carry over into Battle Camp, but I need you all to be educated, just like I recently was about Irina, for those that don't remember her from Love is Blind. So, Love is Blind, Season 4, Irina was courting a guy named Zach, and she is just an absolute quote machine. She says at one point when they're in the pods, I want to be nicer. I'm not nice at all. There was a brief portion of time where like Zach was kind of courting 2 women at once, and one of the women like was making Zach a birthday cake, and Irina's like, oh crap, I forgot it was his birthday, and tries to make up for it after the fact. Of course, Zach does choose Irina in one of the more notable ways, I would say, in Love is Blind, which is that he wrote and performed an entire song about his feelings for Irina, that she was his Blarney Stone. And fittingly, much like the mythical rock, he was trying to kiss her, and she stonewalled him, in a manner of speaking. The two do end up getting together, getting engaged, and it almost immediately falls apart upon the two of them meeting in person. I believe one of the first things she tells him is that like he just has blankness behind the eyes, comparing him to a cartoon character. And that is honestly the warmest thing she probably says about him during their engagement together. Like their entire trip is just fraught of moments of awkward tension where he tries to lean in to kiss her. She's not having it. They're like holding pinkies, like they're sort of grade school, playground mates. And it eventually just gets to a point where they mutually acknowledge, like, yeah, we are not into each other. I believe Irina quite literally says that Zach gave her the ick. And so that engagement falls apart. So I'm very excited to see. Even if Irina lasts one episode, this woman is a meme machine. So I really hope we'll get more fantastic moments out of her. And who knows, maybe we'll get like an entire barbershop quartet this season performing a new song about her. Let's talk about Kyle. Kyle is from The Circle, Season 6. We are used to seeing him alongside his dog, Deuce, who he brought into The Circle alongside him. Unfortunately, he'll have to look for some other dogs in this season. Kyle is a professional basketball player, which, again, that athleticism might come into play in the competition. We're not entirely sure. He was the runner-up on The Circle. Season 6 actually was in an alliance with QT, who we'll talk about in a little bit, so I would not be surprised if that connection carries over here. He was an incredibly loyal guy and, ends up finishing in second place, where, he was in a bit of like a pseudo showmance. There was this really weird thing, but very fun, and only the way The Circle could be happening, where like he had a girlfriend, but was pretending that he was single, and he started a flirtmance with who he thought was a woman named Olivia, but was actually a guy named Brandon catfishing as that woman. And so it led to this big climactic moment in the finale where Kyle and Brandon were face to face there. But Kyle says in his little blurb, "I'm loyal to a fault. I live by a code. So if I say I got you, I got you." And so I'll be intrigued to see if somebody ends up picking up Kyle as a loyal ally, knowing that there's a good chance he listens to his heart. And if you're in good with him, you're in good with him until the end. Let's talk about Lexi. So Lexi is from The Ultimatum Queer Love. For those that are not aware, The Ultimatum is a show where, couples that are essentially on the verge of getting engaged are brought onto the show and undergo a series of tests to see if they are compatible enough to take the next step in their relationship. And for Lexi and her partner, the answer was yes. And so basically what would happen is you either choose to move forward and get married to your partner, or you can choose to split up and choose among the many singles that are around you, serving as a source of temptation. But Lexi staved that temptation away, and I believe she is still happily with her partner to this day. And she jokes that she's coming into battle camp armed with, quote, brains, brawn, and definitely a lot of boobs. I think I missed that Survivor season theme. All right, let's talk about Lorenzo. So listen, there were a lot of people involved in Squid Game: The Challenge season 1, but I think a lot of people remembered Lorenzo. So Lorenzo is this Italian man. He's probably most well known for his garb, where his confessional look was this crochet floral hat and matching top. Apparently his sister made it for him. I don't know if his sister is T-Core from Big Brother, but Lorenzo was a little fiery, known for, definitely not mincing his words when it came to his competitors. And he was actually, interestingly, eliminated by the mother of Trey, who is a contestant on this season, Leanne, of course, standout of the season, a fellow cast member on RHAP Traders, who has an alum on this season as well. In that, it was Leanne had come to him with a bunch of apple slices, offering to them partially to broker relationships, but Lorenzo refused. And so then there was this immediate dorm test. It wasn't a game, but basically everyone was lined up, and it's okay, put in the number of someone you want to eliminate, and the 3 people who have the most votes are instantly eliminated from the game. And so Leanne was one of the first people to kind of throw the first stone in a way at Lorenzo, and it was just easy for a lot of people to pile on. And so we went immediately to saying arrivederci to Lorenzo. I'm very intrigued to see what he's going to bring here, besides fashion sense. I know they probably have to wear team uniforms for the entirety of Battle Camp, but hopefully Lorenzo will be able to, I would say, make lemons out of lemonade, but it looks like he's on the red team. So maybe cranberry juice out of cranberries here. But he is playing alongside a fellow Squid Game: The Challenge competitor, Trey, who, again, was very well connected to his elimination. So Lorenzo says he's good with Leanne, but we'll see if he's going to take some deep-seated revenge, perhaps as deep-seated as those apples he denied. Let's talk about Lewis, and there's a lot to talk about. So Lewis, according to Kirsten, is a 2-time competitor on Too Hot to Handle. This is directly from her. Lewis came into Too Hot to Handle season 5 very high on his own supply about how women are always interested in him, and he is also very bad at following the rules. Again, the rules are that you cannot touch or canoodle, or you can't really touch any of in the metaphoric baseball diamond, for those of you that remember that growing up. You can't even step up to bat, because the second you do, you start deducting money from the pot. And apparently that was Lewis's MO. She says that Lewis was ultimately a finalist, and then they brought him back on season 6, where he was one of the worst rule breakers of that season too. He literally cannot help himself. He was actually eliminated by Lana on season 6 for breaking so many rules and not being a good example to the other people in the villa. And that feels like a rarity. For those who don't know, Lana is sort of like the Alexa, Siri, fake AI host of Too Hot to Handle that makes all the announcements to the cast. And if you've done enough hanky-panky that you have to get removed from the show, that's a lot of hanky-panky. So for a guy who comes in feeling like rules are made to be broken, I'll be incredibly intrigued to see how that applies to maybe the shaky rule system of Battle Camp. Let's talk about Morgan. Morgan is also another alum of cheer of the Navarro Bulldogs, as she has since moved on from cheerleading, but apparently she's been sponsored by brands like OPI and St. Ives, and she's released a line of hair care products with Conair and Skunsi, I think the name is. I don't know. Lorenzo, let me know if I'm doing a bad job with that. So we'll see if she has solidarity with Gabby, if this is necessarily going to be an alliance made in cheer, if they have to get into formation in a manner of speaking, or if this will make the proverbial pyramid tumble if the base falls out from under it. Nick. Let's talk about Nick. So Nick first appeared on The Circle season 3. I remember him well. Nick I believe he worked in tech, but he was pretending that he was a drummer because he played up this idea of like, he doesn't necessarily look like the techie guy, that he's a nerd, that he's super smart. But he was not only one of the big strategists of the season, but I would say one of like the pivotal people to kind of accelerate the game of The Circle, where he was really set up as like one of the biggest players of this season. And unfortunately, he paid for it in the final ratings, where just, it had come down to two sides of the house in a manner of speaking, or the apartment complex, as it were. And the other side just ranked Nick last. And so even his own allies couldn't necessarily support him. And he finished 5th out of 5th in the finals. He then went on to Perfect Match season 1, where he was able to, wine, dine, schmooze, and get all the way to the finals for that. So he's a 2-time finalist on these shows, but always a bridesmaid. So Nick is definitely, again, one of the bigger gamers that we have seen in the Netflix reality universe, and I would not be surprised in the least if this guy tries to take charge on his 3rd show. Let's go to Polly. Polly wants a cracker, and Polly wants to sell you a house, as she is part of Selling the OC. The thing I saw from Polly is, I guess Polly is British, but she has this kind of like weird British American accent, kind of like how Nicole Zanata has this kind of implaceable accent that blends together a bunch of different regions of the country. Apparently that happens with Polly, just across 2 different countries. Polly is a formal model who's packing, quote, fun fashion looks. So again, I don't know if they have to wear uniforms, or maybe it's going to be in their writers that like, listen, I've got brand deals I need to live up to. Please let me wear my garb here out on Battle Camp. Corey Tyler, I mentioned her a few times before, both on this podcast and previously, as Corey Tyler, much like Kyle, was on The Circle season 6 and presented herself initially as just like this former cheerleader, peppy, quite literally, but definitely has a brain. She is a big strategist and was one of the big forces behind what some would call the most strategic season of The Circle ever. She had this infamous standoff with one of these guys where like she was the influencer, he was joined alongside her as like the buddy, and then he kept trying to convince her to do something, and she basically said no, sent him out of the chat, and made the decision herself. And she's also known as well for, listen, it's not going to be all completely game with QT, as she also kindled a relationship with Miles in The Circle as well. But you've probably heard QT on RHAP before. She is a big fan of Big Brother. She showed up on a couple of live feed updates during Big Brother 26. I actually believe before she went out to film Battle Camp. She just recently appeared on RHAP Traders, where she had a very late run in that too. So I think QT is someone who can really wrap her mind around the game almost immediately. And I'm very excited to see get another shot here on Netflix reality TV. Let's talk about Shabam, but more colloquially known as Shuby. So Shuby is sort of like one of the reasons why the Netflix reality universe is as popular as it was. He was a key part of this first breakout season of The Circle that happened in 2020, where this was a guy who came in admittedly like feeling like just a friendly social guy who maybe, didn't really believe in social media, and so felt he was going to struggle in this game where you are terminally online, basically. But he excelled. He made this very unlikely bond with Joey Sasso, and the two of them were able to really run the game down to the end, where Shubi ends up finishing in a very respectful second place. And then Shubi is actually the only two-time Circle US contestant. Shubi gets brought in as part of one of the many twists in season 5, where he is forced to catfish as I believe like a blogger named Sasha, which definitely, hampers his abilities a bit. He comes in and immediately sort of gets spotted as like, okay, I don't think Sasha is who she says she is. He goes hard from the beginning, basically being like, I got to make up for lost time here. He enters nearly halfway through the season and is like, all right, new people, let's get together to take down all the original cast members. And unfortunately, it's like going up against a brick wall, as Shubi is basically eliminated the first chance that he can get. But he is someone who I know has shown up at a lot of these, reality TV events. I've seen him on a couple of RHAP events as well. So he's a big fan of a lot of these games. In fact, he was geeking out at the idea that he got to play alongside Brett from Big Brother on the Circle, even though he didn't know that it was Brett. So here's another fan of these games that I think is willing to put his fandom into practice. And he's quoted by saying, "Battle Camp favors intelligence, perception, bravery, willpower, and mental agility in addition to physicality. Even if you're bad at one thing, you could be good at the others, and you have a fighting chance to survive." And so we'll see how many of those tenets Shubi has the ability to profess here. Final couple of cast members here. Let's talk about Tony. So Tony is from the second season of Netflix's The Mole, and he was only on for 4 episodes, but certainly made a big impression. He was kindling this showmance with Hannah, which was very public, that was drawing the eyes of a lot of different people. He was definitely, I wouldn't call him like villainous, but I think certainly one of the most like vocal and aggressive people when it comes to these challenges. I remember one that was like, okay, you have to sit and, sit in a room and basically like, as long as you stay there, the pot keeps draining and the last person sitting there wins an exemption. And Tony was one of those people that just like refused to get up despite everyone yelling at him. So I think he is more than happy to be the bad guy if necessary. And what's also very interesting is that reading from this blurb, staying undercover is paramount. So Tony plans to go on a charm offensive early in the game before unleashing his bag of tricks. Are we dealing with time travel right now? Could I like hold my finger up to Tony's picture to remove his hair and see that if he's bald, it looks like a younger version of Tony Vlachos? I don't know. Only time will tell to see if Tony becomes a name that is synonymous with shenanigans. Last but certainly not least, let's talk about Trey. So Trey, one of the standout characters from Squid Game, The Challenge, competed alongside his mother, Leanne, seemingly at least partially inspired a fictional dynamic similarly in Squid Game Season 2, where the mother and son compete alongside and against each other. So Trey did alongside Leanne. They were sort of like the emotional anchors, arguably, of the season. He ends up, defeating his mom in marbles. In fact, he says that he's going to bring to Battle Camp some marbles and a picture of me and my mom. And Trey was known for quite literally not looking before he leapt. He made it to the infamous bridge, the glass panels challenge, where it was basically a 50-50 shot every time as to whether or not you would fall or survive. And at one point, Trey just goes for broke until things broke underneath his feet. And it was a moment that had all of us sort of surprised. I think he was getting a lot of like main character winner edit energy, as odd as the edit of Squid Game, The Challenge was. So I'll be intrigued to see if he has learned from that experience and decides to be a little bit more cautious going into all the unknowns that Battle Camp is to provide, or if once again things will shatter underneath him. And that is the cast of Netflix's Battle Camp. Again, a lot is up in the air at this moment as to what challenges these 18 people will face, what the format will be, how this Wheel of Misfortune will be involved. But color me intrigued. These particular people, again, they're coming from all sorts of different backgrounds, and I highlighted we have big gamers, we have big characters, we have X factors. And so I don't necessarily know, especially given I'm not sure what the game structure is, who is primed to do the best. Much like we see in the traders, will it become a matter of like the gamers versus the non-gamers? Will the gamers work together, or will they gun for each other because they see each other as their biggest threats? And who will walk away from it all? $250,000 Witcher. It'll certainly not be my misfortune to get to watch Battle Camp when it comes out April 23rd. And I'm keeping my wheels spinning right now as I wait idly by for this show to debut. But what do you all think? What do you think about this concept of the Netflix reality universe? Is this an intriguing concept to you? What could the Wheel of Misfortune mean? Who are you looking forward to seeing? Do you have a winner pick? Is there more context I should know with some of these other people that I didn't really get into? Feel free to sound off in the comments, both on YouTube and on social media. And of course, if you see something, say something. If there's something else in the world of reality TV that you want me to talk about here on the Reality Flash, no solicitations, just tips at therealityflash.com. And speaking at therealityflash.com, you can head on there to subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you don't miss a second of any and all breaking news I might have coming your way, because we have a bunch of shows that randomly might be coming out, especially some of these all-star series, and I can give you all the context on what you need to know about all things going on in the world of unscripted. That's going to do it for this episode of The Reality Flash. I'll be back in your eyes and ears soon with more breaking news from the wide world of reality TV. Thank you all, as always, so much for listening. Until next time, everybody, you've just been flashed.